This week I'm going to be using the top part of the dome that I cut off when I made my Christmas cloche, and I'm just going to use this heart mould to help sit it up straight. Then I want to fill it with some resin and put a butterfly in. So I've printed out some butterflies onto a transparency sheet. I used my laser printer, but you could easily use an inkjet. It's not important that it be a laser printer. And I've also printed out the butterflies on a sheet of white vinyl sticker paper. And then I used my Cricut to cut them out. I'm going to peel off the butterfly that I want to use, and then I'm going to use a piece of baking parchment to help me place the sticker directly on top of the transparency. I'm placing the butterfly on the parchment so that the top edge of the wings are hanging over. Then I can lay this down on top of the transparency and move it around without it sticking. This allows me to get it in place. Once I've got it lined up, I can push the top edges down, then lift up the parchment and remove it. Then I can place the butterfly down. Now you can see I have my image on the front, and if I turn it over, I have the same image on the back. As the vinyl is placed on top of the ink, it should offer it some protection if you're using an inkjet printer. Now I'm going to cut out the small orange butterfly, and I'll save the others for another project. It doesn't matter if I leave a little edge around the outside of the butterfly. It's acetate and it won't be seen in the resin anyway. Here's the front and here's the back. I'm going to put this piece of card on top of the dome. Then I'll put this spirit level on. Make sure the bubble is centered, and that should mean that my dome is level within this mold. So my plan is to put some resin in, to let it become tacky, and then I'm going to place my butterfly in. So I'll be filling the mold in layers. I'm just folding the wings up and putting a little crease along the middle just to help give it some movement, and so that it will fit into the dome without touching the sides. I'm going to mix up some craft resin and then I'll pour a little bit in. I'll leave it for a couple of hours, I think, and then I'm going to put the butterfly in, let it set completely. Then I will be ready to pop in another layer. I mixed up about 30 mils of craft resin, and then I just poured it into the bottom of the dome about a third of the way up. I'm going to leave it to set for a good couple of hours. Hopefully it should degas. It's been a couple of hours now and the resin is quite tacky, and I tried to use some tweezers to help me place the butterfly in the resin. Unfortunately, I dropped it. But although the resin is still tacky, it is fluid enough to move back into place. So I repositioned the butterfly, and I wanted the top part of the wings to be facing down and the tail to be slightly more upright. When I was happy, I left it to set overnight. And here's what it looks like so far. This is the morning after. It's set. The butterfly didn't sink any further than I wanted it to, which is good. And I'm just going to make sure that this is level. That looks good. So I've mixed up some craft resin. It's got a few bubbles again, but as you can see, the other one has debubbled, which is fine. Ah! Okay, I did not mean to do that. What the heck? I'm just going to pour this. I'm going to tilt the dome a little bit and pour it Hopefully I will have enough to get underneath the butterfly and just fill over the top of it. Can't believe I did that. Okay, looks like I've got enough just covering it. I'll clean this off. I'm going to get a baby wipe to wipe the outside of that. I don't want the resin setting on it. I really don't want to have to sand it and clean it up. And I've got a few blobs on top of the rim, so I'll clean that off. I'm just going to use this stick and try and draw out any bubbles that might have trapped themselves under the butterfly. It is literally just level. There's a tiny bit of the butterfly sticking up at the front. I would have had enough. I'm going to scoop up this. There's no way I'm going to waste it, but I won't put it back in this pot. I'll use it to make some beads. I can add something to it just in case there's any mess on my mat. Well, not in case there is mess on my mat. But I'm certainly not going to waste this. Let's scoop it all up. Let me move this out the way. I can wipe my surfaces off. I've got a little bit in the heart. I really want to make sure that there is none on the outside of this dome. I've cleaned everything up and I'm going to need to make sure that this is level again now. And then I'll leave it to cure completely. It's the next morning and this is cured. I've mixed up some more craft resin and notice the careful handoff of the beaker. I don't want to spill it again this time. I'm going to fill this almost to the top, but not quite. I'm going to add a little bit of colour and I'm going to be stirring it around, so I don't want that to overflow. That should be enough. I'm just going to pour a little bit of this resin into a small cup. And I'm going to be adding this green nail powder. Then I'll mix it in thoroughly. Then I'm going to take a good portion on my stick and I'm going to try and swirl it through the resin that's currently in the dome. I think Wendy did this on Toonpish Crafts and I'm hoping I can get some kind of swirls that don't mix into the resin. We'll see. So you can see I'm just dragging the stick through slowly and it's leaving trails. And if they stay like this, that'll be great. I'm hoping they don't sink, but if they do, I'll deal with that. So I'm going to come back and check this in about an hour and a half, see how they're doing. Unfortunately, they had sunk and they were laying on the surface of the previous pour. So I gave them a stir just to bring them back up into a swirl and lift them off that surface. I'm hoping that the resin is thick enough now so that they will stay in this position. I want to cut a circle of cards and I have these dies. I'm just going to see if this fits, and I think that it does. It's this line that actually does the cutting. I went ahead and cut the circle out of 300 GSM photo card, and I've coated both sides in this kind of chalkboard paint. It's a matte paint. I'm hoping that's enough to seal it. I gave both sides a couple of coats and I've let it dry completely. I've mixed up 20 mils of craft resin, and I'm just going to put enough in the dome to bring it level with the surface. Then I'm going to spread some of the resin on top of this card circle, on top of the print. I'm just literally buttering it like a piece of bread. I'm not laying it on thick, but I do want to make sure that the entire surface is covered in resin, just to make sure that when I do put this on, I try and eliminate as many bubbles as possible. Then I'm going to bend the card slightly and place it face down on top of the dome, and hope that I haven't put too much resin in that it spills out over the sides. I'm trying to get it completely centered so that it doesn't overhang too much on any side, and the size is really good. Didn't need any trimming. I picked it up to look underneath and check for any bubbles. Then I used the spirit level just to check that it was sitting straight. Any bits that had dripped out over the side, and there really wasn't that many, I cleaned off with a baby wipe. Then I left it to set. And here's the end result. The swirls stayed in there perfectly. You can see the little green, it looks like a little tornado in there. I love the flash of it. There are bubbles, but actually it doesn't detract from it. You can't see them that much, and to be honest with you, it looks a bit like glitter. By placing the white sticker on top of a transparency, it doesn't matter whether you tip it upside down or not, you can see the butterfly's wings on both sides, but you've still got a solid image. I really love this piece, and I'm so glad I was able to use the offcut of the dome. Give me a thumbs up if you like this, and let me know what you think about it in the comments, and come back again next week to see what else I'm doing. Thanks for watching. Bye.